Nou goed, ons het vir jou 'n baie interessante onderhoud nou. En ek weet Peer, jy sien baie uit na hierdie ene. So vertel ons daaroor.
Ja, ons is selfs met Tracy McQuarrie vanmôre. Jy weet wie Tracy McQuarrie is. Tracy is nou al 'n rukkie, 'n paar keer hier by ons. Tracy, welcome.
Thank you.
Tracy, you see how she just handed that over to me. Jy's live vanmôre, nee. Ja, slinks. Tracy, before we start with Jennifer's interview, we need to first speak about, so the viewers know, you are internationally qualified. Tell us about, we're talking about dogs this morning again, as per usual, and people's pets, especially habits of dogs, those nasty habits that they have sometimes. But you're internationally qualified. To just tell us who you are again so people know.
So I'm Tracy McQuarrie from Dogtown,
Thank
South
you very
Africa.
Much,
We are an animal rescue centre where we rescue dogs. We call them misunderstood. We don't say they have bad habits. They're misunderstood because for them as dogs, it's perfectly normal what they're doing. It's just for us in our crazy human world, we find them to be bad habits. And we focus on behaviour and rehabilitation of abandoned dogs.
Wow. Tracy, Pierre's quite right. I have so many questions this morning about dogs.
I get confused.
And I base all of it on my own dogs. So my first question is, you get some dogs that bark excessively. Does that depend on the breed of dog? Is it a certain habit that they pick up? Why do some dogs bark excessively?
Okay, so first thing we need to think of is for a dog to bark, that's self-rewarding. So it makes them feel good. Kind of like us singing in the shower. It makes us feel good. So it makes them feel good when they're barking. So is it a behavior that's difficult to work with? Because when we train dogs, we always try and give them a positive outcome for a behavior. But barking is already a positive outcome for them. Some dogs bark mainly because they are anxious. They don't like being left alone. And that is a specific program we need to put in place to help them to get used to being on their own. They're used to being, with their litter mates, and then sometimes they go to a family then, especially if they're not included in their family, they'll become very withdrawn and vocal because they're trying to get attention. And then what happens when the dogs bark? People will like, shut up. And then they're like, oh, mum's barking too. Woo! Bark, 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 bark. And then they bark even more. And then some dogs bark because they see something. It can be a visual stimuli or they can hear stuff. They normally don't bark for no reason whatsoever. They either get themselves into a complete frenzy and become consistent barking, and it's making them feel good, so they keep doing it. Or they see or hear something.
That's fascinating. Ek sukkel nog om dit my kop rondom dit te kry dat dit vir honde 'n positiewe ding is om te blaf. Dis hulle eie selfterapie, hulle eie vergoeding. But now, okay, so we totally misunderstand what the barking is really about.
Yes. Well, it's their vocalization. It's the same where it's their way of speaking to each other or letting a dog know down the street, if the one dog's barking, going, hey, I'm not feeling so good today. It's like, hey, I'm over here. And that's how they're communicating.
If you as a human being is irritated by this, what's the proper way to deal with this?
The proper way to deal with it is to give your dog outlets to do other stuff that makes them feel good instead of turn into something that's not really
screaming,
something that's good for us. So give them something where they're going to use their brains. If I can say any one thing to do, take your dogs on safari's, where they just get to sniff.
Safari?
It's a safari.
A sniff safari?
Yes. They just get to sniff. They get to enjoy the scents. They pick up what's happening. It's like them updating their Facebook status. They say, oh, Rover was here today. He did this and he ate this and he was here. So letting them get to do stuff that's dogs and that is naturally a dog behaviour, and then getting them to do stuff that makes them feel good. Sniffing makes them feel good. Licking makes them feel good. So any of those kind of behaviours, you can get chewing, but obviously give them something good to chew. Give them some kind of mental enrichment, because when they get into that frenzy of non-stop barking, it's just because they're now so frustrated. They don't know what else to do. It's making them feel good, and they've got no other outlet.
Wow, that's really interesting. My other question is, very often you get dogs that keep doing like this with their paw, like almost to get your attention. Is that a normal reaction? I saw one of our viewers also asked about that the paw, like the dog continuously would touch with his paw or her paw to get attention, or to why do they do it?
Because it works.
Ah,
So dogs don't do anything that they're not successful with. So if they were to do this to you and you ignored them, they'd stop doing it. It's not worth them using that kind of energy to do something that isn't successful for them. But if they do this and then you like pat them, or even if you just move them off your arm, you've gave them the attention they were seeking. So they're like, that worked, I'll do that again. But if you are consistent, that is the hardest thing, and especially in families, because dad might not be bothered by it, but mom is.
Yes.
So then with dad, he's like patting every time the dog touches or paws at them. But mom doesn't want that happening, but dad's rewarding that behavior. So it's very hard. You have to be consistent, because when one person does it and one doesn't, it starts to become like a jackpot. Like, you know, if we go to a machine and gamble and put pennies in and we win a little bit of money, we'll keep going, maybe we'll win again. And that's how it works with the dogs as well.
There's something that I'm wondering about. It's about emotions. We get emotional if a dog keeps chewing your shoes while you're sitting at a table for attention, and then we scream at them, stop that, or licking your arm, stop it.
Yeah.
What that emotional expression that we have, does the dog connect that with the same emotion at all?
They understand that it's not something you like, but you are giving them the attention that they are seeking.
Still giving attention. Do you ignore them?
So the best way to diminish a behavior that you don't like is to try and ignore or remove yourself away from the situation. So a lot of the times, if a dog, what we teach our caregivers is, if a dog is doing that, coming up and pawing, you just stand up and remove yourself. So then the dog starts learning, every time I do this, I lose mom. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to rather do something that keeps mom there. And again, we've got to try and change our mindset and say, instead of the dog, what we don't want them to do, what would we rather they do? So if we don't want them coming up and pawing at us, what would we like them to do? If we would like them to just come lie next to us while we're talking, reward them for that. When they're doing something good, reward them for it. That is the behavior I like. That is what I want to see more of. And if you reward them, they start learning that.
What's the reward? Because now I'm totally confused. Is that just stroking? Is that just attention?
That interaction that they were seeking. So it can be the stroking. When we are busy teaching a behavior in the beginning, we always use treats. We always give them something positive. So if you're wanting them to lie next to you, for most dogs, that pat from the owner, it is a form of reward.
Wow.
If you're in the beginning stages, you can give them a treat for doing that, and, you know, good dog, what a good dog. And eventually phase out the treats, either give them a toy or your cuddles and pats.
So don't have conversations with your dogs, emotional conversations. Af, sit up, what are you doing here? That doesn't work.
no.
No.
Unless you've taught them what that word means. So if you've taught them af means off, then they will know.
Yes.
But if you're just, you know, shouting
But that's
words
just for very
out,
clever dogs, like aliens, like your Yorkie.
My Yorkie knows everything. Tracy, my other question is dogs that jump on us, especially when we get home. One, is it out of excitement? Can it sometimes be caused by anxiety because you've been away and it feels very long to them, so they want that attention? Why do dogs jump when you get home?
So both of those reasons are good question. Both of those are important. Yeah, they do it, but they're doing it for attention again. So when you come in and you come in from work and they jump in and you're like, no, get off. They're like, woohoo, game.
It's interaction.
Right, let's go. Whereas if you came in and you were consistent, it's like people say, oh, my dog knows they've done something wrong because I can see it when I come in. No, the dog sees you are looking quite mean and angry at the moment, so they scoot off. They don't know it was for something they did 2 hours ago. They live in the moment. So when you're coming in and they're doing all that jumping about, again, what would you rather they do? So when you come in, have a place. What we do at the shelter is we have their beds a little bit away from the gate. So as we approach the gate, we've taught them, as they see us approach the gate, run to the bed and lie down, and we will go give them a treat and pet them there. And that becomes a learnt behavior. So instead of jumping all over you for that attention, as you come in the door, they're like, Mom's here, off to the bed. I'm going to get a treat and a cuddle. This is what I want. Best thing to do if they're jumping at you, again, turn your back on them, walk away, remove yourself from the situation. They've got to learn that that doesn't work.
Wow, that's incredible. Tracy, you also have a shelter slumber party happening. Tell us about that.
Okay, as if we're not crazy enough, we are now going to spend 24 hours out in the shelter with the dogs. So what we're going to do is from 10 o'clock on Saturday, we move into one of our gardens with a dog in the shelter, and we are there for 24 hours. We're going to sleep, eat, play with them for the next 24 hours. And what's amazing about it is it's an international slumber party. So with the time frame, the time zones, we're the first one. We're the first shelter that starts.
Wow.
So you see all the other countries like going, yay, go South Africa. By the time they're coming in, we're already asleep, so they don't get that reciprocation. But it's a lot of fun. We're doing it to raise awareness for abandoned dogs and obviously to raise funds. We're still looking for people to come and join us. If you're crazy enough to come spend 24 hours in the shelter, that'd be great. And we've also got a way you can fundraise to where you can sleep in your own garden with your own dogs and just raise the funds. Just contact Ilanza's email address and she can set you up a fundraising platform and you fundraise and sleep in the garden with your own pets. But, you know, it's always nice to come sleep in the shelter.
Wow, that's so nice. We really like that.
Yay.
Tracy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for educating us again with regards to the dog's behaviour, what to do, what not to do. I think every time you hear, Piet and I learn so much and viewers learn so much. And thank you also what you're doing for the abandoned dogs and how you look after them. It's really beautiful. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Dis natuurlik Tracy McQuarrie van Dogtown SA.